This is Jessica.
This is Kelly, the Chasing Brighter podcast.
Hi, everybody. On today's podcast, Kelly and I will be conducting our very first interview, and we will be interviewing my great friend, Teresa. She was my very first friend when I moved to Las Vegas. She is a full-time wife and mother. She has a light and faith that shines bright, and I find myself drawn to her energy. So welcome, Teresa. We have lots of questions for you today, and thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm excited for you girls. I'm excited for your new podcast, and I'm excited to be part of it. So thanks for inviting me.
Thanks for agreeing to us and being our guinea pig.
Yes.
And I think what we're trying to do today is walk a mile in your shoes, Teresa. So I always get confused with the number because there were so many kids growing up for you, but you're right. You're 6 of 7.
7 of 8.
So you're 7 of 8. See, I always get it wrong because 7 already seems like a lot.
Yeah. Yep. I guess we're good Catholics, I guess. My mom. Yeah. I grew up poor. I would say we never had nothing. We didn't not have food, not have a place to live, but we got by on very little. And I don't know. I think I think it's great if people can have a lot of kids, but you have to realize that you spread yourself thin. So I think my mom was spread thin by the time my parents were spread thin by the time I was born, and they had a lot of struggles already. And my version of it is I always felt loved. I knew I was loved. It was great being part of a lot of siblings, especially a baby. I was kind of, taken care of or whatever. But, I guess I felt like I didn't want to burden my parents with my own burdens, and they never were asking me about how I was, except for externally, if my grades were okay, if my health was all right, but never were talking to me about my feelings. I actually almost probably felt like I didn't want to burden my mom because she had a lot on her plate already, I don't know how you know that when you're a little kid, but I did know it. Even not knowing exactly what her things were, she just seemed overwhelmed. So that is, I think I just took a role of, I wanted to help all the time. I wanted to I was the neighborhood babysitter. I was the, kind of a mom's helper. I liked hanging out with other moms that had young kids because they would take me, they would want me to babysit, but then I felt useful in their home, and my own home was chaotic. So my mom worked in the evening and she was home during the day, but we were at school. And then in the evenings was kind of bad because my dad was home and he was very abusive, verbally, physically. And so I just think that that's my story of being, one of many, many siblings. There was a lot to overcome being poor, trying to have what everyone else had or be like everyone else, But I mean, I never grew up in fancy neighborhoods, just average.
Well, I think too, when you said, how does a child know they're a burden? But I think you and I have, had some conversations about this, but about you being an empath and you sensing, right? It was natural to you. Because I think there are other people that would be in your position and not recognize, right? This might be stressful for my mom, so I'm going to lay low. But you intrinsically could sense, right? You could sense the vibe, you could sense the energy and the mood. And you were like, okay, mom can't take one more thing.
Yes. I now I have recollections of being like having a stomach ache and not wanting to tell her because she had enough to deal with. I would even go to my older sister, and she was kind of motherly anyways to me. So she would be more like, oh, I'll get you some tea or, something like that. My oldest sister also took the role of I don't believe she was asked to. I think she stood up when my mom has mental illness too. She's bipolar. So I think when things got overwhelming, my older siblings just took over because they had to, I think. And so that was kind of some of our struggles is, you know, with my dad being very abusive, my mom, having mental health issues and just life struggles, But altogether, I mean, even with all that, I could still say I had a pretty happy childhood because my siblings and I are very close and we depended on each other and we had neighborhood, we had family friends, we had church friends who kind of maybe didn't know all that was happening in our house, but definitely stood up because they saw there was a need.
Yeah.
So, I mean, given a lot of those challenges, I mean, how do you see that now as maybe an advantage for you now in kind of where you are in life?
I think we all know that if the strong survive, they come out better, right? Like, I mean, if you, with adversity and everything, if you come out on the wrong side, you've learned some stuff, right? So I feel like being poor made me appreciate stuff, made me want to work hard to get things that I wanted, makes me want to teach my kids because I do have more than my kids have more than I ever had. But I don't want to give them that because I understand the value of having to work for what you want and how it contributes to your character. So I definitely struggle with not wanting to give my kids everything. I want them to earn it. I want them to be grateful for that. And for me as a human, like I think every day, because my car starts every day, I'm grateful. Because if you've ever had a junky car before, you know what it's like to be like, oh, you got to almost prepare to be like, what next is going to happen? And now I'm always so, so grateful for, for the silliest things. Like, I mean, not all the time. I'm not talking about myself being so great or anything, but I have to remind myself of where I've been so that I can appreciate where I am.
That I was just listening to Brene Brown's podcast, Unlocking Us, and she was just talking about the research supports gratitude equals joy, and that gratitude is a practice, and that is how we can have joy.
Absolutely. I just read something too, which was another Brene Brown thing that made me think about is saying, she said something about if you listen to people and let their truth be theirs instead of, second guessing it, then you're giving them power of empathy. That's what empathy really is. But sometimes we discount people's stuff, because our experience is different, but it doesn't make it theirs not true, Yeah. So I'm like, I want to be that. Those are things I aspire to be, like to be a person who can let other people's stuff be theirs without judging them. I'm not there yet, but I'd like to be,
Yeah, I think that's the work. I think some of that comes from, if this all makes sense, but if you love yourself and you believe in an abundance, you are allowing that other person to have their journey. Does that, like, you don't need control of their journey or to judge what they're doing because you, if that makes sense, are happy with yourself. And I think when we're unhappy with ourselves, we project that onto other people, and that comes out in judgment.
Yeah, I'm just learning. Parenting teaches me so much about life, but I sometimes I used to discount, like, because I have teenagers who are dramatic about stuff, and I'm like, oh, come on, you have no idea about the world. And then I'm like, okay, but it's real to them right now. I have to slow down and say it's real to them right now. And they don't see that it's just a simple thing. Like, to them, it's real. That's the biggest thing in their life, and learning to, I don't know, let my kids make their own mistakes. That one's really hard for me. or make choices without me. My son is 17, so he's almost an adult, and still I think I know better than him, and I want to tell him what he should do. And then I'm like, you don't learn until you make mistakes. So I want to have the gift of stepping back and saying, if that's your choice, then whatever comes with that is your choice.
I think that's so hard to, so my oldest is 14. I think that is so hard to allow them to experience pain, disappointment, grief, right? I think that comes from wanting to protect, like just do everything I say and live this, follow this line, and I've got this, bam, and it's like I'm surprised that I am giving my 14-year-old a longer and longer and longer leash. You don't know what you're going to do till you get there. And it's like, okay, we have to allow them to fail. There's that book, The Gift of Failure, and failure can be a gift, right?
Yeah. Yes.
That makes you strong. You can't be smart or brave or wise if you haven't had to experience, right, fear or disappointment or failure.
Absolutely. It's like you were saying, like the diversity that I had as a child. Like, I'm sure my parents didn't want me to be broke. I'm sure they didn't want me to be felt left out or, too busy for me. But all those things have taught me lessons in life. And we know that you can't know what good looks like unless you've experienced bad, right? So I have to remember that with my own children, that when they have failures, they will learn from them. So I have to let that happen.
So, Teresa, you were talking about just kind of how you grew up and, some of the ways in which that's helped you be who you are today. I know you had a lot of older siblings, but who were some of the role models or who were some of the influences in your life? I mean, you talked about knowing that you had to work hard to get what you wanted. How did you know that? How did you know? Were there people who kind of came along throughout your life that really had an impact on you?
I would say, like I was saying, I was kind of like a mother helper. So they were my neighbor ladies that would just tell me I could be more, inclusive to me. Maybe I remember I don't know if everybody knows, but Sunday school teachers, we call them catechism teachers. Like, I remember that as a youth, maybe, a teen, having a friend's mom be the CCD teacher and just like talking to us like our opinion mattered. I think that's it. Like talking to teenagers, like, because I didn't feel that as a kid. I thought kids had a different place than adults did, and that what adults said was the rule, the way it was, and just becoming a teenager and hearing people that wanted to hear my opinion, that thought that what kids had to say was something, so that I had an aunt, like older in life, when I was seeking people to inspire me, when I was looking for inspiration, I would say my aunt, Oprah. This is, I would say the latter version of Oprah, not when it was just a little walk around Donahue show, but like when she was more inspirational. I just think like I knew I could see it, even though I was in my 20s, that wisdom came when you got older. And I wanted to have that. I wanted to have that. Stop caring about what other people think, be you, be authentic, So to me, that was, and even today, I would say that those are the people that I want to talk to, people who've lived some experiences, and where they came out on the other side and how they got through it. Because sometimes my marriage challenges are so much for me. And then I think, how are people married for 40 years? How do they do it? Like, I can't even imagine that. And then I have to see, like, hearing their stories and what they've been through. And it's kind of the same. It's how you're going to choose to let it affect you, I guess. So to me, that's what I feel like. Church, definitely church people. Now I just been reading a lot about, I always want to say, I wish I could remind myself to keep the heart of Mother Teresa. Like I just want to be, I mean, I don't want to go to India and touch sick people. I just want to have a heart that wants to always help, and if I remember that, it takes less judgment. I become less judgy. So I think like Jessica was saying, gratitude is what helps us be better people, because when we see what we have and we see what other people have, that inspires me to want to do more, to be grateful for what I have today as opposed to what I had before. And not just things, but knowledge of the world. So that's what I say. I always tell Jessica, the part I don't like about being old is what's happening to my face. But the part I do like about being old is what is happening to my heart and to my brain. Like, I just want to be comfortable with who I am, with who other people are, accepting people for who they are, instead of being judgy, thinking everyone needs to be a certain way. That's the growth I've come to.
That's very beautiful.
Thanks.
And knowing you, I know that you have such a strong faith. Can you tell us how you stay positive and strong, or what are things that you do? And maybe it's because I'm a therapist, right? But like, there are a lot of people who have experienced adversity and they struggle with gratitude. They cannot see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's very difficult for them to not compare. It's very difficult for them to have gratitude. So kind of what are your daily, weekly, kind of monthly practices that help you with your faith and help you staying positive?
I wish I was a Bible reader. I wish I was all those things. I do listen. I go to church. I talk to people. I avoid negativity like as much as I can. And as far as the media and stuff, I don't want to hear about social, celebrity gossip or whatever. Like to me, it brings me down because I get in comparison, and we all know that comparison steals your joy, right? Like I have to remind myself comparison steals my joy. So, I want to be happy for where I am. And I think that's where definitely talking to my friends, talking to people, I would even say church friends and people, listening to inspire. Like I do love Brene Brown. She's my new person, inspiration. I'm sorry, I can't. What happened? Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I don't know.
Do you think you are good at setting boundaries? So I've noticed for me now in my life, I'm 43. I don't have time for shenanigans, right? I have a business. I have 3 children. I have so much going on that I can't be with emotional vampires anymore. And I really am drawn to people who are on similar journeys as I am, right? And so we can talk about all these exciting things. Like I know we've all referenced Brene Brown at this point, where we can talk about, oh, did you read this or did you see this? Because we're all just trying to do the work. I guess I'm drawn to people who are really doing the work. And so how are you with the people you surround yourself with? And do you think you're good at setting boundaries?
I'm getting better. The older I get, the better I'm getting. I, like you said, if I'm an empath, then I want to be around people who I think need me, but then sometimes they take too much from me. And then I can't be authentic to myself because I'm like you said, it's emotionally vampire. Like I'm giving too much and I'm not. So I think I have to find a balance of like helping people and still taking care of myself. That is a tough struggle I have. Because sometimes I let my identity be that I'm helping other people, and everything in my own life is put aside and suffers. My family suffers, my marriage suffers, my kids, because I want to get fulfillment out of help of giving to so many other people that I don't work on myself, and then everyone, like everyone in my life will suffer because of that. So I'm learning to set boundaries about how much I can do for other people, because that's where I find my joy. I find my joy in doing for other people, or trying to make a difference, in the world, or in my little tiny world, or so, so that, yeah. I mean, but I definitely think I'm getting better at setting boundaries, and I don't want to be involved, the things that I wanted to be the PTA everything, and thought that made me look like the best mom. And, I wanted to do what stereotypes I thought were cool, or but now I'm like, I think I can do more for my kids, not being at every single event that they are at, and, being their support in it and helping them on the back scene, maybe, instead of being needy. I guess it's different ages too of where they are in life, but that's what helped me learn to be more, to step back, and just say, I don't think the school needs me there every day. There's somebody else who can do that job. And then, I used to do advocacy for foster kids, and it's still in my heart, and I love that. I just don't know how much I can do that anymore without the sacrifice that it takes for my family, because I become so emotionally invested in it that I can't even, I take on other people. Like you're saying, it's an empathy thing. It's what did you call it? An empath.
Yeah.
It's being an empath and holding on to their pain. And sometimes it's stifling for me,
And I think you were so good at it, right? I mean, so you were like, I'm going to get this kid, right? We're going to get this kid permanent placement and find a loving family. But like you're saying, then to know your boundaries, because then your kids are put on the back burner because you're out advocating, calling, writing reports for these kids, and knowing, and that's a boundary, and that is such a fine line, because you're saying you're good at it, right? You're good at it, and it feels good to be able to do that. And I know I was telling you the other day, my new thing, I think I started it in 2020, was people have to say, Jessica, can you help me? Jessica, can you do this for me? Versus me like, oh, what do you do? Okay, here's what you got to do. Let me just email you this, what you do. You gotta contact this person, go here, do that. Here, I've got a coupon here. What'd you say? And then you want me to bring by some soup, and wait, I'm at the grocery store. You need to get anything for you? And it's like, no. People have to say, excuse me, Jessica, can you help me? And other than that, then I'm not, and that's very counterintuitive for me to not jump in and save everybody, but that is not my role. And I think that the more I'm learning about being an empath has to do with being an empath, because you are sensing everyone else's discomfort, their pain, whatever it is. And so you think that's your job to make them feel better. But if you don't care for yourself and set boundaries, you lose yourself in that.
Yes, for sure. I mean, those are tough things to learn, but I think so much of that comes with maturity, but also, like you said, seeking out a good balance in our life. Like, I don't know, I have trouble balancing. Like, I also have some physical issues. I have health issues, so then in my mind I have all these goals of I'm going to go here, I'm going to do this, and all these things I want to do before I die, and then I feel like I'm trying to squish them in. I'm trying to squish in everything I want to do. And then when my body is failing me, I'm frustrated and angry. And then I'm like, who am I disappointing? Only myself. It's only me. I don't know why I get so frustrated when they're only my personal goals. No one's expecting anything out of me, So, but I think that's a frustration I have, that of holding myself to wanting to do more than I really can. There's only so many hours in the day, and feeling okay. Another thing I struggle with is feeling okay with having downtime, like letting myself not need to be doing something or fixing something or getting something for somebody else. Or
I think of that as vulnerability, like being able to be vulnerable.
yeah, I don't like that. I mean, I guess nobody likes being vulnerable, but there is a gift in that. There is.
Let's go back to some other less serious topics. Like, what song, album, or playlist do you listen to the most right now?
Oh, I'm kind of a dork. Like, I'm not very hip. Me and my daughter, we love, that's the only kind of cool stuff when I listen to stuff with her. Well, I like Gwen Stefani, so we can jam to some girl chick stuff like that, and Lizzo, all that stuff. But then personally, when I have my own playlist, it's my old school. Like, I listen to Janis Joplin, the Beatles. I'm not all that hip. I just like what I like.
Those are all great.
That inspires me. Because the whole that's so funny, because my daughter wanted me to buy her because these kids now like all the retro stuff, right? So she asked me to buy her a Pink Floyd t-shirt, and I go, if you could name one song that they sing, I'll buy it for you. Because she doesn't know who Pink Floyd is. She just likes the album cover.
Yeah.
Awesome. What about movies, or a movie? So what movie do you think that you've seen the most times?
I'm not really a rewatcher, except for like Christmas movies, Christmas Vacation.
That can still count. Okay.
Yeah, those ones we watch 1,000 times, and they never get old to me. Like, I could probably repeat it, though. I probably say the word for word. I love Christmas Vacation, but my favorite movie ever that I probably have watched multiple times, and I want everyone to see, and I want to show it to them, it's like Shawshank. The Shawshank.
I have never seen it, Teresa.
My gosh, can we watch it together, Kelly?
I think we're gonna need to.
I want you to watch it with me, because I do this to Bryce all the time too. I feel like there's must-see movies, but I haven't seen him for a long time, and him and I just watched 12 Years a Slave. Oh, that one cut deep. But I mean, that's see, you're right, Jessica. I do like down big belly stuff.
I'm like, oh, Teresa, that's too heavy. I don't want to.
Yeah.
I would have to prepare for it and do like a 4-parter or something, but I'm just speechless because Kelly hasn't seen Shawshank Redemption.
No, that's the best movie of all time.
It is. I need to get on that.
What's your favorite movie of all time?
I think for me, for a long time, would be Pretty Woman.
Oh, I put that on my list too when you guys named. When I was a kid and I was like 16, I worked at the video store, and I think I played that on repeat the whole time.
People are like, God, they need to change this.
I just loved the rags to riches kind of story in some ways, and I think it's interesting because now I look at it now, I'm like, wow, I was liking a movie about a prostitute, but I didn't see it. You don't see it that way, right? You just see it as this girl who doesn't have any money who gets to shop on Rodeo Drive. That's kind of what I saw it as. Which kind of even circles back to parenting, and you're talking about your kid's state of mind, right? Because you realize, like, as a kid, they don't see the world interpret it the same way we do as adults.
Right. You just want all that cool stuff. You're like, how lucky she was. You're not like, oh my gosh, poor girl, she was a prostitute. You're like, how lucky for her. She gets the hot guy and cool clothes and stuff. Yeah. It's
that reminds. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
That reminds me, there's a movie, Rags to Riches. Now I feel like I got to show my kids that movie.
Was it a movie or was it a TV show? Because now that I think about it.
It was a spinoff. I think it was based on a movie. Either way, I got to show my kids Rags to Riches.
I love that. It wasn't very many episodes.
Was it like a modern Annie where a group of kids were like?
It was a group of kids that were adopted by a guy who was wealthy. So you're right. It's like it was like a modern day Annie.
I also loved Steel Magnolias. That was, I don't know.
It's a beautiful movie.
Just maybe the cast was great. I loved the old lady, the little sarcastic old lady, you know.
That's a really great one. I actually made my kids watch Jaws this weekend. I love Jaws. PG-13, by the way, or PG. It's PG, not even PG-13. But I was trying to make them more aware of like the theatrical parts of that.
How horrible the graphics
Do they
were.
have a 4K version? Because my kids, if we try to watch something old, they're like, it's blurry. I can't even. Their mouth isn't exactly matching the audio. Like they're so spoiled, you know? And I'm like, we had like a 20-inch TV or something. I would remember we didn't have a remote and the TV would turn like blue and red and you have to go and like hit it really hard for it to turn back, you know? And so they're like,
that's awesome.
This is only SD. I only watch 4K Ultra.
Yes, right. And my favorite, when my kids would tell me about scary movies, I'm like, I thought The Shining was the scariest movie. I still think it's the scariest movie, but they're like, oh, Mom, it was kind of cheesy. I'm like, no, it's not cheesy. Jack will always be that guy.
I agree. I think that is a pretty scary. I think the older movies are scarier than the newer ones. I don't know. I love scary movies.
I like more thrillers though, like that, like Misery, Shining. I don't like slasher movies.
I don't like the gory stuff so much. No, I did watch all the Halloweens before, but
about the one where they had that home video camera and they were like in the woods and
the Blair Witch Project.
Oh, the Blair Witch, yeah, that was
that's
really
all in your head. And then did you watch? What was the one that was after that where the girl had the demon?
The Exorcist?
No. It was like it was right around the time of Blair Witch, and there was like a noise in the house, and she could like hear a demon.
I didn't see it.
No one.
I kind of know what you're talking about, but I've got to. Is that the one with the circle? The
Ring.
The Ring. Is that the one called The Ring?
Scary. The Ring scared the crap out of me. I thought it was like the people that really bothers me, but I was going to say what was really weird was Justin and I went to see that movie that doesn't have a name because I don't remember it. And when what was it? Something happened. I don't remember what happened, but anyways, we came home and our DVR had recorded like all these scary movies, like at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., like they were recorded. I was like, oh, I think the demon followed me home.
Now in your house, the aura or whatever bad or
the demon energy left the theater and came home with me.
I know. I'm not a scary movie person, but I like I made Bryce watch this one movie with me that was it was Robert De Niro. And they went out to. He was this creepy killer. He wanted to get the guy back for being
on the boat.
Cape Fear, the Cape Fear one.
Oh my God,
so good.
I know. I was like, isn't that the creepiest thing he wrote on the bottom of their car? And yeah, no, Bryce did like it, but at first he's like, oh, Mom, this isn't really a scary. My version of a scary movie is thrillers, I think, you know.
Yeah, for sure. I like all the M. Night Shyamalan movies because everything was in your head. You don't see anything.
What was that? What kind of movies?
M. Night Shyamalan, like, The Sixth Sense.
Oh, yes.
Or The Village, where you're not seeing anything. You create it all in your mind. So you're kind of freaked out, but they don't really show you anything.
I said I want to have a Stephen King because when I was a kid, that was what was scary, like Pet Sematary and Cujo.
Yep.
But I read all those books. And I was inappropriately young.
Right.
Like I had a library card and no one was monitoring what I was checking out.
I watched The Exorcist and my mama had already told me not to. So then I was having bad dreams but I couldn't tell her. I must have been only 9, 10 years old. But I think I was like, then I was horrified and I couldn't even tell her because I'd get in trouble for watching it. Plus my mom was afraid of anything that had like negative, like religious.
Well, I mean, the Catholic Church, I think, was against The Exorcist. Like, you weren't supposed to watch it. Like, I don't know if they still had that. Like, at one time, there were like a lot of movies that you shouldn't watch for whatever reason.
And that's probably why my mom told me not to watch it, because she definitely did whatever the church told her to do. Yeah. But it was scary. Like, remember the holy water burned her skin?
I didn't see it. I've never seen it.
It might not be as scary.
It's a classic. Like, you almost need to watch those just because they're like quintessential. A lot of movies, I think, nowadays take from old movies because there's not a lot of like it's kind of like everything's reinventing their own, not a lot of original content, I guess I should say.
I was saying that the other day because Bryce works at the movie theater, and so we can go for free. And then I'm looking on the list. I'm like, there's nothing I even want to see there. I'm like, they're redoing the Firestarter. I was like, Drew Barrymore is the Firestarter.
I saw that too. Yeah.
I saw that too. The movie I'm talking about with the demon or whatever was Paranormal Activity.
Oh, I do remember. Or the what was the something? There were real stories of they were like real stories
on TV.
No, it was a movie, but it would be like people's arms getting severed and like gross stuff like that. But they were real movies. I mean, they were real stories. I can't remember what that was called, but I was like, I didn't want to watch it. You know, like all the your teenager friends want to watch it. And you're like, I don't want to watch. I didn't like that. Even when I was in high school, like, you know how there was a fight and then everyone would run to go look at the fight. And I'd be like, oh, I don't want to watch them fight. I'd try to break it up.
Are you talking about, one show that we did watch a lot as a kid was Rescue 911?
Oh, Rescue 911. That's a good one.
And they would like reenact it and it would just be kind of fake.
Yeah.
So, do you remember that part?
Yeah, the cheesy version of it. And then the people that it really happened to would talk. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I still like those ones.
So we're like a voyeuristic society.
Right.
I'd
rather that's our reality TV. That's the kind of version of reality TV I like. Yeah. Not seeing them, brawl with their friends or. I don't like Jersey Shore. I mean, for a minute I watched Survivor, but I'm not really that much into reality TV like Housewives or anything. But I did like 48 Hours and Forensic Files and creepy stuff like that.
Well, we all grew up in the 80s and 90s, and I think one of my final questions for you is if you could experience any period of time, any point in history, what would you want to experience?
I know I saw that question and I don't know if I have a good answer. I mean, I grew up liking, because we didn't have cable back in those days. Like I liked Beaver Cleaver and the Brady Bunch and stuff like that. So I think that I thought that I wanted that probably because my family was dysfunctional as well. And they looked like they were so happy little family that I thought I wanted to, like, I just thought their life was simpler in the 50s or, Happy Days. Like, you're like, oh, they're so cool. You guys that might be a little bit, I'm a little bit older than you. So maybe that wasn't your gig, but I remember thinking, well, I was a kid too when in the Happy Days people were teenagers, right? So I was like, oh, that is so cool. Everything that teenagers did was so cool. And I liked, just those simpler times. I thought those times were simpler, when I look back now, but I'm like, every generation has their own stuff. Like So if I wish I lived in the 50s, then I would be a woman who was even more oppressed. So not really. I don't wish I lived then. I just thought that their life, they lived a simpler life. They didn't have the internet. They didn't have to be exposed to every single thing in the world. It was only if you read the newspaper or watched the 6 o'clock news did you even know what was happening anywhere outside of your town.
Yeah.
Lots of downtime back then. Lots of downtime.
It just seems simpler.
Yeah.
Life seems, but I don't wish I lived then because, like I said, we've grown in a lot of ways since then too. And I don't know. My mom is so much older, and I always think like, man, if she could have only been able to be herself, but she was oppressed by the times that she, because her parents were uber Catholic. And so she had those expectations to live up to. Plus she was a girl. She couldn't do whatever career choices she wanted. Like you could be a nurse or a teacher or something. Those were the only choices you could have, But I think my mom would have been a feminist if there was, because she definitely went away to college, which that was unheard of,
She tried within so many restrictions of her family and society and her gender. It sounds like she tried to be as independent as she could. And then do you feel like she was kind of forced into marriage?
Yeah, I mean, I think, yes, absolutely. Because she didn't marry till she was 27 because she had gone away and went to school. And then after she finished nursing school, she stayed there and worked. And her mom wanted her to come home. And they basically found her a husband, kind of like my dad is the nephew of their priest. So
they went searching. And was your dad living in the States?
He had just moved to America, and he was sponsored here by that uncle who was the priest at my mom's church. So I think her mom was like, you can't be a spinster, so we'll find you somebody.
Yeah. So he was like a mail order groom.
Well, he was already here, and he was here for opportunity to go to college, but I'm sure he didn't have any perspective wives anyway. So
yeah.
It's just weird. I mean, so I think that is definitely a representative of her time. And then I wonder what it would have been like if because I would say even as my parents were divorced later in life, like I felt like she became a different person when she didn't live under his thumb,
Yeah.
So anyway, my take on it, and I just want to say this. I want my take on people. I want to believe that people are mostly good. And even though a lot of bad things happen in the world and I don't want to know about it, and that I try to put my blinders on, but I want to see the good in people. And I do believe that people's spirit is mostly good. It's only bad things that have happened to them that make them so negative,
Thank you so much, Teresa, for joining
Yes, thank you.
Chasing Brighter today.
Ladies, I always like chatting with you. I don't know if we got good material, but it was a nice talk anyhow.
You're awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
All right. You girls have a good day, and I'll talk to you soon.
That's all for today. Thanks for listening.
And don't forget to follow us on chasingbrighter.com or on YouTube at Chasing Brighter or on Instagram at Chasing Brighter.